Welcome to Happy Cooking with Yvonne Douglas. Today I have a special treat for you. I'm going to show you how to make a Linzer cookie. And the Linzer cookies are actually an Austrian cookie from Austria. And the recipe was actually brought to America back in the 1850s by an Austrian named Franz Höhlhuber. And the German word for Linzer cookies is Linzer Augen, which are like sandwich type cookies. So they could be made with rounds or they could be made in heart shapes. So today we're gonna actually make them in heart shapes. They're usually made for the holidays, Christmas time, but you could also make them for Valentine's Day or special occasions like anniversaries. So my friend Teresa Nolte, she has been asking me for this recipe. So I decided to do this now instead of in the fall like I had planned. So hopefully you'll stay tuned and learn how to make some Linzer cookies, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Happy Cooking with Yvonne Douglas. So let's go through the ingredients and baking supplies that you're going to need to make our delicious Linzer cookies. So as you can see, you're going to need a food processor. You're also going to need a mixer. As far as the ingredients, you're going to need 2 1/4 cups of flour, half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 cup of slivered almonds, 1/4 of a cup of packed light brown sugar. Make sure it's light brown sugar and not dark brown sugar. You're also going to need 1 cup of softened butter, so that's 2 sticks, a half cup of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of almond extract, and don't forget that large egg over there. And you're also going to need some lemon zest and maybe orange zest. And then I have a Smucker's red raspberry jam jar over there. That's a 12-ounce jar, but you're probably going to use about half of that. And then of course you're going to need some baking sheets. I love using Silpat. When you use Silpat, you don't have to butter the tray or anything. You can also use parchment paper, but I love using Silpat. And you're going to need just a regular large size bowl and a wooden board and roller to roll out the dough. So those are a rolling pin, I should say, and those are the ingredients that you're going to need to make our delicious Linzer cookies and some of the supplies you'll need also. All right, so welcome back. So let's start. The very first thing you want to do is get your dry ingredients. So you need a large bowl. I already put in here my 2 1/4 cups of flour. You're also going to need your cinnamon. So I'm using half a teaspoon of cinnamon plus a little bit more. So it's like half a teaspoon and a pinch more. And then I'm also going to use a half a teaspoon of baking powder. I'm also going to use a half a teaspoon of salt. So those are pretty easy to remember. It's half, half, half. All right. And what I'm going to do is get a whisk, and I'm just going to whisk those together. This is my dry ingredients here. All right, so let me get my food processor here. And in my food processor, I'm going to add this is 3/4 cup of slivered almonds. So you are pulsing your slivered almonds and your brown sugar together. Yeah, that looks great. Perfect. So next step with our mixer, what we want to do is we're going to add our paddle attachment, which looks like this. And we're going to put that on there. And then I'm going to add my butter. Now I like to your butter should be softened. And so I just kind of like cutting mine up a little bit, like that. And we're going to mix together the butter and the powdered sugar, and that is a half a cup of powdered sugar. Get my powdered sugar here, I'm going to add it. And I'm going to just mix those two up on low. And you just want to do it until it's kind of combined. A little tip, what you can do is get a cloth and you can just lay it over your mixer, so then this way the powdered sugar doesn't go all over the place, all right? So mix it on low. You just want to mix it on low until it's kind of combined. I'm going to turn it off so I can scrape the sides a little bit. Continue mixing that on low. And I can see that the powdered sugar and the butter are getting very well combined. So once that happens, you can put it on a higher speed. So now we're on a medium speed, and I'm going to mix this or whip this up for about a minute. Have my cup of coffee here. Once that's whipped up, I'm going to scrape the sides again. And then we're going to add our egg. Remember, this is 1 large egg. Now, what I like to do is I like to first crack it in a bowl just in case I get any shells or anything like that. I want to make sure no shells go in there, but just want to check it out. Yep, looks good. And then you just add that egg. You're also going to add your vanilla extract. That's a ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you're also going to add a ½ teaspoon of almond extract. Now, almond extract can get really strong, but I think for this it just goes so well. So half a teaspoon of almond. Oh, it's gonna have such great flavor. All right, I just love the way that smells anyway. Love almond. And then you want to get some lemon zest. Remember, it's gonna be approximately a teaspoon of lemon zest and orange zest. So I have my orange zest and lemon zest. I'm going to add it. It's going to give such wonderful flavor. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to mix that up. And I'm going to put it on low, and then I'm going to add my almond, grounded almonds, and my flour. And then this is my dry ingredients. So I'm going to do my dry ingredients a little bit at a time. Add the rest. You can hear that the mixer is getting a little slower. You want to make sure it's well combined. So I can see this is pretty much combined. Roll up my sleeves a little bit. And yeah, and it smells, oh my gosh guys, it smells so good. Oh my gosh. So this looks good. I'm going to scrape the sides a little bit. You want to make sure that you're mixing this on low too. So I'm going to put it on just a little bit more. On low. I just want to make sure everything is nicely combined. All right, excellent. And it smells so good. Oh, the lemon zest, the orange zest. Ah, smells so good. All right, so what you want to do is you're going to take this off and you're going to get some plastic wrap. I'm just going to put it on my board over here. Make sure your hands are always clean when you're cooking and baking. Super important. All right, excellent. All right, so I'm going to form a ball. This is my dough. Still have a little bit more in the bowl. You want to make sure you get out all that dough. You don't want any waste. All right. So that looks good. Take some off of here too, off of my paddle. All right, so I'm gonna form a ball, just like that. Make sure it's nice and combined. Awesome. And then I'm going to put it in this plastic wrap. And you do need to chill this for 2 hours. So it's gonna go in the refrigerator for 2 hours. Okay, welcome back to Happy Cooking with Yvonne Douglas. So I wanna talk to you guys about a couple of things before we start rolling out our dough. You need to prepare your surface. So I do not want to be rolling my dough out on my countertop. So I have a wooden board here, which I highly suggest you get a wooden board, a large one. This is the largest one I have. So a large wooden board. You're also going to need some extra boards too, so after you use your cookie cutter to place it on these wooden boards until you're ready to put them on your baking sheet that has either parchment paper on or Silpat. Your surfaces need to be lightly floured. Even your cookie cutter needs to be lightly floured, so make sure that's lightly floured too. This is probably around a 4.5 inch, 5 inch large heart-shaped one, and then I have a smaller one. And the smaller heart-shaped cookie cutter has some kind of like some rigid edges going around, which I like that look a lot better than if it was just cleanly cut. So I think that's going to look really pretty. Another thing you're going to need maybe is a pastry cutter. This is just to cut the dough in half. If you don't have one of those, don't worry about it. You can still use a knife. You're also going to need a wire rack here to let the cookies cool. Definitely that is something that is very important to have. After you take them out of the oven, you'll let them sit on the tray for just about a minute or so, and then you'll transfer them to the wire rack so they can cool completely. Now your cookies, you're going to be making, this is going to make approximately, I say about 10 cookies when they're put together. So you figure there's around 20 because you're going to be needing 2 of these for 1 cookie. So half of the cookies, so you figure 10, need to be cut like this with the large cookie cutter. The other 10 need to be cut with the large cookie cutter and the small cookie cutter. So it should have 10 of them should have a hole in the middle of the heart, and then 10 of them should be just a full cookie that is heart-shaped. And these extra, after you cut these out and you have these small little hearts, you can still use those. You could just sprinkle powdered sugar on those, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So this is important to have your surface all ready to go. Prepare it, lightly floured. Even your rolling pin, make sure your rolling pin is lightly floured too. I get just an extra, this is probably 1/4 cup of flour, just on the side, just in case I need to add more flour as I'm rolling, because this dough can get a little sticky. So you want to make sure it's lightly floured. You don't want to put too much flour, but you do want it to be floured where you're able to scrape it off the board. All right, so these are just some of the things to prepare yourself before we start rolling out our cookies. Now we will preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and once we start baking these, they're gonna bake for approximately 12 minutes. Once they're totally cool, then we're gonna add our yummy red raspberry jam. Now you can also use strawberry jam for this, but I just love red raspberry jam with this. I think it's so good. All right, so now we're going to start rolling out that dough, so stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to cut our dough. Here's my dough. I just took it out of the refrigerator. I'm going to cut this in half and then put the other half back into the refrigerator because you definitely want the dough to be chilled. So here's my dough, I'm placing it on my board, and I have my my pastry cutter, and it has been lightly floured, and I'm just gonna cut that in half, just like that. Get the rest, put it back in the plastic, and put it back in the refrigerator until I'm ready to use it. So we're back, and I'm going to roll out my dough. I'm going to use a little bit of flour, just put a little bit of flour on it. I'm just gonna press down a little bit with my hand and just test it out. It's a little sticky, but like I said, you have to have a floured surface. So I'm gonna get my rolling pin. I'm gonna start rolling this out. You need to roll out your dough. It needs to be approximately 1/8 of an inch thick. Looks good. Now I'm ready to use my cookie cutter. I think I have to roll it just a little bit thinner. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so I have my cookie cutter here. I'm gonna start using them. And don't twist too much. You just wanna do a little bit. You might need a spatula just to pick it up and place it. Like I said, you want to place them on the floured surface. All right, so I'm gonna keep cutting these out. Remember, you don't want it sticking to the surface. So if you see, like I just saw that it was a little bit sticky, I just want to get a little flour, make sure your cookie cutter has that flour on it. There we go. Look how pretty that looks. It looks awesome. Okay, so I wanted to show you, so I placed my hearts on my cookie sheets. They're ready to go in the oven. But let me show you quickly about rolling out and then doing the smaller cookie cutter. So this has some flour on it. Let me roll this out. Remember, you want to roll this out to approximately 1/8 of an inch thick. Just take this part off. And here's my cookie cutter. So I'm going to just use that. And then I'm going to use the smaller one, place it right in there. And it just pops right out. See that? So there's the smaller one. I'm gonna put that on the other tray. I'm gonna use my spatula and just lift that up. And then you have the hole in this heart. All right, and so I'm gonna continue making these. My oven is now preheated. So I'm gonna put these in the oven. Remember, these bake for 12 minutes. All right. Okay, so when I rolled out my cookies, I actually made 9 this time. So I did have some leftover dough. It was probably not enough to make 2 big ones, or I should say 1 more cookie because 2 makes 1. And I'm just using, so what I'm doing, I'm just rolling this out and using the small cookie cutter, just making extra smaller cookies so I don't waste any dough. And so if you have a little bit of dough left over, that's what you can do. Just roll it out and continue to make smaller cookies until you have no more dough left. All right, I'm just probably just gonna make 1 more. There we go, awesome. Okay, so we took them out of the oven and we're gonna let them sit for approximately a minute or so before we remove them and put them on the wire rack. Then I'm going to get my other 9 that have the holes in it and bake those, and also the little tiny hearts too. So these are gonna be so good. I can't wait to put it all together. So what I'm doing first with the little cookies, the little heart-shaped cookies that look like this, I am just putting them on a plate, getting some powdered sugar, and just sprinkling them with powdered sugar. These are just going to be little accent cookies that are going to go along with our really big ones. All right, so that looks really, really pretty. I'm just transferring them to this plate after I sprinkle them with powdered sugar. We're going to be putting these on some really nice cake stands for presentation. I am making these for our anniversary. It will be 7 years. We're married 7 years, so hopefully Yvonne's going to love this, and I'm going to set it up really nice and surprise him for our anniversary. So stay tuned. All right, so I just wanted to show you how we're gonna put our cookies together. So I already did one over here, and the very first thing you need to do is sprinkle the hearts with the holes in them with powdered sugar. So make sure you do that first. All right, so I'm just gonna go through, sprinkle all my hearts with powdered sugar first, the ones with the holes in it. Place it back on the drying rack. You want a nice covering of powdered sugar. Try not to put your fingers in it because, you know, you'll have finger marks. So just kind of pick it up from the side and place it gently. You don't want them to break. So once those have powdered sugar on it, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna get your whole cookies like this, and you're gonna get just a teaspoon of the jam. Remember, you can use strawberry jam. I'm using red raspberry jam. And you're just going to smear that jam all over your cookie. Don't go to the very edge. Stay a little bit away from the edge. Okay, just a little bit, because otherwise it'll be spilling out on the sides and you don't want that. Where that heart is in the middle, you want to make sure that there's a little extra. So in that middle part, just add a little bit extra. You want it to kind of give sort of like almost like a stained glass kind of look when you place the other one on top of it. So let me show you. So here's that with the jelly. I'm not the jelly, the jam. And I'm gonna get my powdered sugar cookie here, place it on top, and it will stick together. The jam is going to adhere, and there you go. Look at that pretty cookie you have. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. And so I'm gonna continue making mine, and then we're going to put them on a nice pastry stand, so stay tuned. So they're all done. These are my big cookies, my Linzer Cookies, a little bit of Austrian decadence. So these look really, really beautiful, and what I'm gonna do is put them on these pastry stands, little cake stands. I'm going to divide it amongst two since it's our anniversary. Some for me, some for Yvonne. And I'm gonna set these up, and it's gonna look really, really pretty, so stay tuned. So here they are, Linzer Cookies, and hopefully Yvonne's gonna love that for our anniversary. And look how pretty they are. Let me give it a good taste test. It's so good. I hope you try it out. If you have not subscribed yet to my channel, please subscribe and like this video. And until next time, happy cooking. Bye-bye.